So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Stefanie Mumby, and Jordy and I, we came here to Orville in 2007, been here for 13 years, and I'm not really going to tell my whole story, but I will tell you that my husband Jordy passed away in March of cancer after a year-long battle with cancer. So I want to put that information out in front of you right away so that you know the references that I make this morning will make sense to you. So with that, we're going to get right into it because I know everybody's going to be hungry soon. So let's hear what the Lord has to say this morning and then enjoy the day. So let's start with Mark 11:23. All right, so this is right after Jesus withered the fig tree, and his disciples and Jesus, they stumble upon this tree, and they're all blown away, the fact that Jesus can wither a tree. And Jesus responds with this, "Truly I say to you, whoever says to this mountain, be taken up and cast into the sea, and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that what he says is going to happen, it will be granted him." And that same phraseology is also found in Matthew 17, verse 20, so we're going to read that one too. And this comes after the disciples tried to cast out some demons, and it didn't really work, so Jesus responds with this. And he said to them, "Because of the littleness of your faith, truly I say to you, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move, and nothing will be impossible to you." All right. So now what do we do with that, right? How many of us have come up on some circumstance in life and realized that we thought we had the faith of a mustard seed, but the thing that we read in the Bible didn't happen? It's happened probably to pretty much every single one of us. We had this idea that Jesus was going to come in and he was going to do something, he's going to change some circumstance for us, and then it didn't happen. Now, I wish I could explain to you the dynamics of the kingdom and of God and how he decides or doesn't decide to do things. I don't have any of those answers, but I do have a tough circumstance, and I do have some perspective that I think I can share with you this morning. The first thing to note about this is it's the whole central thing that Jesus is talking about is the idea of faith. And he's telling us that if we have just a small amount of faith, that's all it takes for impossible things to happen. But I believe that what has happened, at least in modern Christianity, is we've not really understood what faith actually is. And so if you go and you look at the Greek word for faith, it is the conviction of the truthfulness of God, his existence, and that he is creator and ruler. And because we haven't had a proper understanding of what faith is, we take this idea that we read in the Gospels and we read in the New Testament that we have to have faith to make God do something. And so we try to summon up every ounce of faith and we aim that thing at our circumstances. It's like if we had a laser called faith, and we could aim it at that circumstance and blow it up, that's what we would do, right? Except for that if faith isn't about our circumstances, but faith is about God, then we're aiming at the wrong thing. Because faith is not about our circumstances, faith is about understanding who God is. It is being convinced of his truthfulness. It is being convinced of his existence, and it is being convinced that he is creator and ruler. And that mustard seed has to be about that. That mustard seed cannot be about our circumstances. So what do we do when we don't understand? Every single one of us has something in our lives that we don't understand, probably more than one thing. And we hold God hostage a lot of times in our not understanding. But that's because we're aiming at the wrong thing. We're aiming at understanding, or we're aiming at our circumstances, and we're not aiming at finding out who God is. See, with my life, when Jord got sick, I thought that faith was mustering up something inside of me that I could push out really hard and it would make God do what I wanted him to do. I spent a lot of time with him in the year that George was sick, and obviously since then. And I sat under the stars in my hot tub, and I looked at the glory of the universe, and I talked with him, and he met me over and over and over again. And I really believed that I still believe that I heard him when he said that he was going to save George's life. But he died. And now I'm left with the pieces, I guess. And the only thing that I can hang on to is who he is. The only thing that I can aim for is figuring out who he is. Because if I try to sort out the pieces of my life in terms of why did this happen or how did you let this happen, that's not an answer I'm going to get this side of heaven. And for a lot of us with our circumstances, it's not an answer we're going to get this side of heaven. But that's not what he's asked of us. He didn't ask us to figure it out. He asked us to figure out who he is. That faith, that journey of faith is about putting yourself out there to him over and over and over again, as many times as it takes to be absolutely convinced of who he is. But when we don't get what we want and when we have our eyes on the wrong thing, it actually pulls us further and further and further away from him. All right, let's go into Galatians 2, verse 19 through 20. This is Paul. He's talking to the Jews and the Gentiles, and they're trying to sort out all this Jew-Gentile stuff. But the second little part of the verse is what I want to focus on. So Paul says, through the law, I died to the law so that I might live to God. I have been crucified with Christ, and it is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, that's your earthly body, the life that we live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself up for me. Paul had a lot of crazy things that he would not have understood, but the reason that he continued to be Paul and the reason that he continued to lead the way in showing people for 2,000 years the way to Jesus is because he didn't have his eyes on his circumstances the way that we tend to have our eyes on our circumstances. He had his eyes on one thing and one thing only, that is the person of Jesus Christ. Period. And when Paul talks about faith, he isn't talking about circumstances, and he's not talking about circumstances changing. He is talking about finding out who God is. When I fell in love with Jesus as a teenager, it wasn't because I needed anything from him. I met him. That's what it took for me. I didn't need him to fix anything. And I'm really thankful that that's how I met him, because it caused me to choose him for no reason other than who he is. And when George was sick, I was seeking that faith that would heal my husband. I fasted once a week, just because I wanted to be a place where faith could live, and I was like, it's going to be that point where heaven meets earth in me. Maybe that's what it'll take to get him healed. I just wanted God's power to flow through me, and, so I fasted for that. And that's okay. Because, my heart was good. And it wasn't even that I wasn't supposed to fast, but my eyes were at that point still on the wrong thing. I hadn't yet understood what faith is. I don't remember exactly when it was that I just thought, I'm going to look up the word faith in Greek and I'm going to see, what does it mean? And when I did, I was like, my mind was blown, because I realized that it wasn't at all about what was happening in front of me. It wasn't about my husband wasting away in front of my eyes. It wasn't about him dying slowly. It wasn't about losing him inch by inch. It was about figuring out who God is, because I knew that at that moment that was all I was going to have to hang on to. Not because I knew at that time that he was going to die, but because I needed him to take the next breath. And I prayed all through that year, don't let me lose sight of you. No matter what happens, I do not want to turn from you. And it was that pursuit of who is God that has caused me to be able to get out of bed every morning. I can't tell you how hard it is to get out of bed in the morning. It has caused me to be able to have joy that I should not have. I have hope that I should not have. My bed is covered in mascara. And when I think I can't take another breath because it hurts so bad, he comes and he lifts it from me and carries my pain. That's who he is. It doesn't matter that he died. It doesn't matter that George died. I mean, it matters to me, obviously. But that's not the point of this. My journey with Jesus has everything to do with finding out who he is and nothing to do with my current circumstances. Not yesterday's, not today's, and not tomorrow's. It is about Jesus and Jesus alone. I want to be convinced of his truthfulness. I want to be convinced of his existence. And I want to be convinced that he is the creator and he is the ruler of all things. And you know what? Because of my life so far, I am. More than I ever have been in my life, he is real. Right here. Like right here. When he was showing me this, he was right there. I just about fell apart. I felt like my body was going to explode because his presence and his passion for this moment was so intense. Because he knows how many of us have shut ourselves off from him with our disappointment, with our not understanding. And we try to compartmentalize our hearts. Well, I don't understand what you did in this area, so I'm just going to ignore it or shove it to the side, and I'll follow you, but this part of me won't. I'll trust you, but not with this. You know, I know how to do the right thing, so I'm just going to choose to do the right thing, but I don't want you anywhere near this. And we think that we can live like that. We think that we can do what Paul says when he says that I have been crucified with Christ and it is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. We think we can do that, and yet we can compartmentalize our pain. But we can't. The only thing that we can do with our pain is bring it to him. 2 weeks ago, I just had this horrible day. It was as if George died all over again, but for the first time. It was the worst day so far. I'm not going to tell you the story of what triggered it, but I rode my bike from the office and I rushed up to the house, and I was going through the alley and I'm sobbing out loud and hoping nobody hears me. And I get into the house and I open the door and I fell on the carpet and I just wept and I started screaming, "Why? Why did you let this happen? How could you do this to me? How could you let this happen? How could you let me be alone?" But I wasn't screaming to an empty room. I was screaming to him. And he was right there. Right there. And I fell apart because the brokenness of my heart was exposed before him. And yeah, I was mad. But I was mad to him and with him, not at him. And that's how we're supposed to do this. We are not supposed to, go in the corner. I think of a toddler, when they're mad at their parent and they cross their arms and they go like this and then they turn around because they don't want you to come close to them. And we do that with him all the time, especially in things that we don't have answers for. And there's a part of us that's still a toddler in the corner. where we're refusing to let him have access. Well, I'll follow you, but I don't trust you. But we can't compartmentalize. It doesn't work that way. We can't fully give ourselves to him and be in the corner having a temper tantrum. And I know, just because it's human nature, and I've talked to enough people, I know that all of us have something, some area where we are holding God hostage to our not understanding. And he wants to unlock it so that we can be fully, aware is not the right word. We can be fully convinced of who he is. Because when we become fully convinced of who he is, everything that we need as human beings can be found in him. That is what gets me out of bed. That is what gets me out of bed, that he is with me, and I know him intimately. He told me on New Year's Eve, this last year, Jordan hadn't died yet, he said, I have never once asked him about a year for myself. This is the first time I ever did it. And he said, you're going to grow with intimacy with me, and you're going to grow in intimacy with people. And I didn't know how that was going to happen, but now I do. And it has been very hard, but I am so thankful for it. I have never known him like this. And it is because I have chosen to uncross my arms and come out of the corner and go to him instead. And you guys can do this too. It doesn't matter if whatever happened to you happened a long time ago is happening now. Doesn't matter. It's time to come out of our corners, guys. It's time to let him have access to the things that we don't understand. And we have to be okay with the fact that we may never have answers. But you know what? Faith isn't about having answers. Faith is about finding out who he is. It is being convinced of his truthfulness. Do you know if you're somebody that never lies, you're good. You are a good person. And he's never lied. So he is good. His goodness knows no end, it says. And we can know that. We can know of his existence, not here, not in the Bible, but we can know him. And we can know that he is creator and he is ruler. And even though we don't understand, he still has us. He wants us to have an intimate experience with him. And I am calling you into the same journey that he called me into this year, of finding out who he is, of allowing him to have that intimate place in your heart. All right, let's go to 1 Peter. George spoke on this verse, changed my life, changed a bunch of people's lives. This is while he was sick, and there's T-shirts that you'll see that says "Uncommon Hope" on them. People wear them sometimes. Anyways, I was led to this verse again, and I realized that this verse is what got George through the hardest thing that he'd ever gone through. And the second half of this verse is what is getting me through the hardest thing I've ever gone through. In this you greatly rejoice, even though for a little while, if necessary, you have been distressed by various trials, so that the proof of your faith, being more precious than gold, which is perishable, even though tested by fire, may be found to result in praise and glory and honor at the revelation of Jesus Christ. When I read that word revelation, I just about fell on my bathroom floor. Because I realized that by having the correct understanding of what faith is, this whole idea of a mustard seed, not aiming that faith at a circumstance, but aiming it at understanding of who he is, that by focusing on finding out who he is through some really, really hard stuff, we get a revelation of Jesus Christ himself that goes way beyond this and way into this. Peter is saying that our faith again, not being something that aims itself at circumstances, but our learning who God is, our being convinced of his truthfulness, of his existence, that is what brings the revelation of Jesus Christ. And it says here that even going through all of this, even though we haven't seen him, because we're aiming our faith at finding out who he is, even though we haven't seen him, it causes us to believe in him because he comes and he reveals himself. And we begin to rejoice. And we see this glory that Peter's talking about. And when we see who he is, the outcome of that is our salvation. This is not easy, but it is at the exact same time. I can tell you that while my life is the most difficult it's ever been, there is the exact same, or the opposite side of the exact same coin is that my life is the easiest it's ever been because he is the closest he's ever been, because I've allowed him the closest that I've ever allowed him to come. And when it says that he carries our burdens, he's not kidding. All that mascara on my sheets is testament to it. That when I have nothing left, or even when I just need to not feel the weight, he's right there to carry it, to pick me up, to carry my sorrow. It says that he bears our sorrows. And he wants to come and he wants to bear yours because there's still things inside of you that you're not allowing him to carry. Matthew 7:7-11 says, ask and it will be given to you. That word ask doesn't just mean ask. My kids ask for TV all the time. Can we watch a show? Mom? I can tell you how many times a day I hear Mom. I almost lost it on Saturday. Stop saying Mom. Anyway, the word ask means beg, call for, crave, and desire. I guess maybe TV is a good example because apparently they do that. Anyways, beg, call for, crave, desire, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and it will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives, and he who seeks finds, and to him who knocks it will be open. For what man is there among you who, when his son asks for a loaf, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will he not give him, or he will not give him a snake, will he? If then you, being evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father who is in heaven give what is good to those who ask him? Do you know what our problem is? We won't ask. Because we're holding him hostage to something that he didn't do that we wanted. We're never going to find out that he gives good gifts to his kids if we won't ask. If we won't beg, call for, crave, desire from him. Yes, I'll follow you, Jesus. But I don't need anything from you. I got it. I'll handle myself. Thank you. Because you didn't do what I wanted. Just remember, he knows that we don't understand. And for whatever reason, he doesn't explain it. But he also promised to carry the things that we can't carry. And I'll tell you, not understanding is something that we can't carry. So sometimes it's as simple as saying, I don't understand, but I'm leaving that one with you. I'm giving you my need to understand. And being willing to explore what faith really is, which is, who are you? And letting go of faith having to look like you doing this. So, this is where we have choices to make. And I'm inviting you into this process of letting go of what you think faith is and instead turning it to, I need to find out who you are. And in order to do that, you probably have to let go of some stuff. You're going to have to uncross your arms and come out of the corner and go to him. And if you have to scream, why did you let this happen? To him, then that's what you need to do. But you have to do it to him. Because if you're just screaming at nothing, you've still got your arms crossed and you're in the corner. But I'm telling you, your life, when you start to let go of this stuff, where you're holding him hostage to your expectations, your life is so different from what he wants it to be. He wants to reveal himself to you. That doesn't seem, those words that he wants to reveal himself to you, doesn't seem like enough to describe what I have experienced over the last 7 months. He is so real. And he is so good. He can do anything. I am more convinced of that now than ever. Because I've seen him. So, we're going to have pastors at the front. I'd like to keep the center open if that's possible, just so that if people want to come up to the front, if you know you've got something in your heart that you are not willing to let go of, but that this morning you're seeing that you're going to have to, I really encourage you to, either in your seats or here at the altar, show him what you've been holding so close. I was thinking of poker where you're holding your cards so close, right? Just flip them around and let him see. And just let him be with you in it. And see what happens. All right, I'm going to pray. Thanks for listening to me this morning. Jesus, we really need to know who you are. We need to pursue knowing who you are. You said that without faith it's impossible to please God. Well, without knowing you, it's pretty hard to please you. So would you unlock our hearts, Jesus? Give us the courage to face the things we don't understand. Ask for my friends that you would be with us this week. And as we go, amen.
Thanks for watching the Father's House Orville YouTube channel, but don't stop there. We'd love you to subscribe to our channel so that you never miss a live service or a video. Help us spread the message of Jesus by sharing this video with your friends. You can also support the Father's House financially by clicking the Give button. Thanks again for watching today, and we hope to see you again soon.